That night at the Stampede Park, a freak blizzard began that would last almost 24 hours and unload 30 centimeters of snow. Conditions were bad with a capital B. As if the cold, wind, and snow weren't enough, an interesting and challenging course became a sea of mud, complicated even further by intermittent power blackouts. It was a racer's nightmare, but to their credit, they did race. And this is how Pat and I describe the action.
We've got 49 riders here in Calgary at the Stampede Park, and with the weather conditions we've got, with all that snow turning the dirt to mud, it could simply be a matter of survival.
Ross Peterson, Medicine Hat, Alberta, the Canadian Supercross champ the last 5 years.
Doug Hoover from Mount Albert, Ontario, runner-up in the Canadian Championship in '85.
Alan Dick, Abbotsford, British Columbia, the BC 250 and 500cc champion.
21-year-old Guy Cooper from Stillwater, Oklahoma, won the overall title in the Florida Winter Series.
Tom Carson, Hopedale, Ohio, the 25-year-old veteran, rides for Team Tide.
19-year-old Mike Fisher from Santee, California, and Vancouver, British Columbia.
Arnaud Bernard, Laval, Quebec, the native of Belgium, will ride a Team Tide Honda.
And Steve Visser from Colehurst, Alberta, 19 years of age and one of the up-and-coming Canadian riders. Well, you know, the 250cc riders can adapt for all kinds of weather, but I don't think a snowplow is one of the things you would normally bring to Calgary in the month of May.
Here's how they qualify, Steve. 12 riders come out of the heats, another 12 out of the semifinals, and then the 25th rider, the winner of the last chance qualifier.
Okay, we're set now for the Labatt Calgary Supercross final, and it's going to be a dandy simply because the weather conditions have made it just about equal for everyone.
Every one of these riders is going to be battling some pretty treacherous conditions out there. Steve, there's the drop of the gate. Dick out quickly on the number 7 machine. Look at the mud as they run it into turn 1. Dick, your leader, getting out of shape, and Dick has crashed. Dick went down in turn 1 there when he had the lead, as Cooper, 67 on that Team Tide Honda, leads it here off the start, but the riders battling some very, very difficult conditions here at Calgary.
Just want to remind you, this is not mud wrestling you're watching. It is actually the Calgary Supercross.
You can see Cooper going up over that jump, not getting nearly as much air as he was earlier this evening in his heat, as the riders just simply try to keep those motorcycles going over the course here that's really become very rutted. This is the bridge that is made by railway ties that leads over the horse race track. That is very, very slick. You can see the back end really coming around. Doug Hoover, number 2, in that second place position. Hoover tries to chase down Cooper here on the opening lap.
Well, I guess this is the Stampede Park where they do indeed race the thoroughbreds. They talk about mudders in horse racing. I suppose we've got some good mudders in Supercross racing, guys who like to race in the mud.
Well, Cooper appears to be one of those mudders right now. He is handling the conditions here better than any of the other riders. Hoover is trying to stay with him, but he's having difficulty.
The start is always very critical in Supercross racing. We're going back to take a look at it now.
The riders revving those machines up, the gates drop, and it is Alan Dick out quickly. Dick will actually lead it here into corner number 1, but then he gets out of shape here going over those 2 small bumps and crashes in turn 1. Cooper takes the lead.
There's one thing about it here. When you do go down in this mud, not half as serious as going down on a dry, hard track.
Well, it's a little softer, Steve. The problem the rider has, he gets mud all over the handle grips. It becomes difficult to hold onto that motorcycle after, and these bikes right now are probably running with about 10 or 15 pounds of mud caked onto the machine.
About the only people happy with the conditions here in Calgary are the sponsors of Team Tide.
Well, Team Tide has really made its presence felt in the Canadian Supercross Series this year. This is their rider that's leading it, Hoover in the number 2 position. Hoover coming up to go over the bridge, and he loses it there in that big rut. He put the front wheel right down to that rut, has kept the motor going and continues in that second place position. But this is the rider who has handled the conditions here in Calgary best so far. Guy Cooper out of Stillwater, Oklahoma, on that Team Tide Honda, continues to lead it.
Some of those ruts are so deep, you get in, you may never get out.
Well, this is reminiscent of the Toronto Supercross race back in 1980 when only 1 rider was still moving after all the other riders simply bogged down in the mud. Here is Cooper going by Tommy Carson. He's already lapped his fellow team time rider, Tommy Carson, number 69. He continues to lap some of the slower riders who are really having their problems here in the mud at Calgary.
They move 400 truckloads of dirt, or about 4,000 cubic yards here in Calgary. Most of that, 99%, has become mud. Driving conditions, riding conditions are absolutely terrible.
You can see through that berm, Cooper's machine was right up to its rear axle down into that rut. And the riders using their legs to try to keep those motorcycles moving. Once you come to a standstill, it's very difficult to get going again, and we're seeing riders all over the racetrack.
And unfortunately, you can't call on the CAA for help.
There's the battle for second place. Hoover in second. Peterson back there in that third place position. And again, very difficult going over the horse race track, over that railway tie bridge. There's just a little bit of mud down there. What is there is really providing a very slick race course. There is Hoover continuing to go. Back to our leader, Guy Cooper, who has led it here from the opening lap.
Guy Cooper handling these conditions in Calgary, which are awful to say the least.
Checkered flag coming up here for Guy Cooper. That checkered flag coated in mud, but Cooper has taken the checkered flag here for the win.
So it's Guy Cooper who is simply going to throw himself into a hot bathtub after the grueling race here in Calgary, the winner.
Hoover, your second place rider, coming up here to have a chat with Cooper. I don't think he is exactly sure where he is finished.
I'll tell you what, people at Team Tide are going to have their work cut out for them to clean up these uniforms. And there are the final standings for the Calgary Supercross. Guy Cooper, the winner, followed by Doug Hoover, Ross Peterson, Steve Visser, and Alan Dick. And only Canadians can pick up points in the Canadian Supercross Series. So Doug Hoover is our current leader with 17 points, followed by Ross Peterson with 15.